Attorney General Professor Githu Muigai has told the Senate Legal Committee that the country's electoral system is manual and that the technology part is merely complementary. But as our reporter Murimi Mwangi now tells us, the Council of Governors has told off the AG and raised the alarm over a possible plot to use the manual loophole to tamper with the 2017 polls.
Because the credibility of an election.
In a fresh twist to the political standoff on whether the country's electoral agency, IEBC, should revert to manual voter identification and transmission of results where technology fails, Attorney General Professor Githu Muigai now says Kenya's electoral system is manual and that the technological part is merely complementary.
How do we count the vote? We have no machine for counting the vote. It's a manual process. We empty the debe and we count. If we emphasize the electronic, we will be ignoring the reality of what happens on the day we vote.
The manual system has been abused, so we have cured the manual system. The mere act of voting being manual means that the entire process is both manual and electronic. Even persons with disability who don't have fingers and maybe cannot see, we have not provided a formula in the regulations. And therefore, it will be good for you, in your opinion, to then give us that, because in my own view, personal view, and I'm entitled to it.
We have no legal problem. What we have is we have a low threshold of trust.
As you said, that systems are almost guaranteed to fail. As an insider and as someone who has access to information that many of us do not have, is there something you know about the failure of technology in these elections that other Kenyans might not know?
In the nature of systems, it may be the machine that is wrong, not the individual. Imagine what that means if the machine is in Thika town, or is in Kisumu town, or is in Kakamega town. The first conclusion that the commentators say is that there has been a deliberate effort to cut out the people of Machakos, the people of Thika, and so on and so on.
But the Council of Governors has rubbished any manual fallback as a loophole, which could result in election tampering and rigging. This as debate raged in the Senate Legal Committee on possible electronic backup options that the IEBC can turn to.
There are people who don't have thumbprints because they are quarry workers. And one vote counts for a lot. We need not have a system where one person is sent away because they are not identified by the BVI.
The peasant farmer from Muranga who woke up very early to milk his cows and carry his materials and feed the cows and so on, his fingers are not without contact with the material he was using. The failure of the machine to recognize him cannot be cured by backup.
Identification on arrival is where we have a problem. And then the question is transmission. Must you carry the Form 16A and change it 3 times before it arrives at KICC? Physically. It can be transmitted through the satellite gadgets.
The suggested changes to the Election Laws Amendment Act were passed during a stormy session at the National Assembly. But the Senate committed the contentious amendments to its legal committee to allow public participation. But the opposition coalition code has threatened to resume street demonstrations if the Senate passes the contentious amendments. As the legal committee prepares to draft a report with the input from all the stakeholders, all eyes will be on the Senate ahead of the Thursday vote as the debate on the admissibility of a manual backup system continues. Murimi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
And that is the basis of our big question tonight. The Council of Governors making its presentation before the Senate Committee on Legal Affairs. claiming that this is the manual electronic system is a plot to rig the election. So we're asking you whether you agree with the Council of Governors when they say that the manual electoral system is a plot to rig the elections. Send us your thoughts to the number 22155. You can also send us a tweet at KTN News at Yvonne Okwara. The hashtag is KTN Prime. Now, have religious leaders failed to bring sanity and be the voice of reason between political players ahead of the August 8th general election? Well, already there is division among religious leaders on the manual voter identification and transmission if technology fails. And now human rights activist Reverend Timothy Njoya is asking the religious leaders to steer clear of this debate and concentrate instead on mediating between CORD and Jubilee leaders. Here's Chris Thyro with more.
Religious leaders were credited for brokering a truce between politicians affiliated to CORD and Jubilee when the opposition was staging weekly protests across the country, calling for the removal of Isaac Hassan team on grounds that they can't be trusted to conduct a free and fair election. The efforts saw the demonstrations called off and a special joint committee formed to deliberate on crucial amendments to the electoral laws. 5 months down the line, religious leaders now seem to have taken cue from the politicians and are divided on whether the IEBC should resort to manual transmission if technology fails.
All technological gadgets fail one time or another, and therefore the idea of having a standby alternative would always be a wise decision.
We would have advised them not to do it just like that, but to get their fellow opposition members to discuss these things, because these things are not belonging to individual. They belong to the whole nation.
But according to human rights activist Reverend Timothy Njoya, religious leaders should stay away from debating the issue to avoid bringing more confusion among Kenyans.
I don't want to say they are talking nonsense. I would say that they are talking like pedestrians. They don't know what they are saying because they are not experts in ICT. They have experts they should have brought on the table to talk and advise how those devices shall work and make, like, you know, the people who are going to the moon. Even the rocket science can fail.
Njoya argues that religious leaders should be a voice of reason by bringing political players to a negotiating table when there is a crisis. In 2005, during the referendum between Orange and Banana and the 2007 post-election violence, religious leaders were blamed for taking sides and being unable to broker dialogue between the warring teams.
But all the church do is to offer alternative resolution mechanisms and become actually a credible neutral arbiter. And actually, I think at the moment, the churches are not neutral by taking sides with either purely digital, because there is not, you can only take full side on the side of God if you are the church, but not on a gadget.
Challenge with the church in this country is that it is populated by highly politicized and ethnicized prelates. They are prelates who are not governed by the spirit of Christ, but by the political exigencies of the day. And because of that, they take the same decisions as any layman would be taking out there. The Kenyan flock is a shepherdless flock.
Religious leaders also played a major role in shortlisting, interviewing and nominating members to the IEBC Commission, who are set to be interviewed by the Legal Affairs Committee in the National Assembly next week. All eyes will be on the religious leaders to see the move they make, given that the opposition has threatened to go back to the streets if the electoral laws are amended. Chris Thyro, KTN News.
Now, the nomination panel for commissioners of the IEBC maintains the process was fair and transparent. The panel says all the nominees were cleared by various agencies, including Wafula Chebukati, the nominee for position of chairman, and Consolata Nkatha, nominated as a member.
Barely 2 weeks into the nomination of IEBC commissioners, queries have been raised over the suitability of 2 commissioners, that of lawyer Wafula Chebukati, nominated for the chairperson's position, and Consolata Bucha Maina, nominated as a member. The panel, chaired by Mrs. Bernadette Musundi, said they rightfully assessed the nominees based on the information they had at the time.
Had the allegations contained in the media been brought to the attention of the selection panel at the appropriate time, the panel would have, as it did with respect to all other information received, brought the information to the attention of the 2 applicants before their interviews.
Musundi further maintained that the selection of Wafula Chebukati and CEO Ezra Chiloba, who both hail from the Western region, had nothing to do with the panel and could not comment further. Additionally, questions have been raised about the suitability of Chebukati following reports that he had been outperformed by other candidates in the interviews.
As for us, the names we gave to the president are the names that we as a panel agreed on. King is not necessarily the end of everything. There are many other things to be taken into consideration, which are internal procedures that we work with.
The National Assembly's Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, chaired by Samuel Chepkonga, Tuesday asked Kenyans to present their memoranda on the suitability of nominees after President Uhuru Kenyatta forwarded the names to Parliament for vetting. The selection panel has also urged the public to submit their views on the other nominees. Caroline B., KTN News.
It's now 30 days since doctors embarked on the nationwide strike in public hospitals. And tonight, a 45-year-old woman is fighting for her life at a hospital in Molo. Susan Karimi's worsening condition is attributed to the substandard medical attention occasioned by the ongoing doctors' strike.
A nurse attending to Susan Karimi at the St. Joseph's Nursing Maternity Hospital in Molo. Still in pain, she stays composed, but a keen look at her face reveals the pain she is going through. Her woes began on December the 10th when she developed fever, joint pains and vomiting. Her destination was the Elbagon Maternity and Medical Center. According to Susan, she was given an injection at the hospital and advised to go home. However, she says there was no improvement thereafter, with her right thigh developing an abscess. When she went back 5 days later, the nurse at the hospital told her that it was beyond them and she was told to seek treatment elsewhere.
Safari ya ine, tunaenda kunagua siku ya Friday. Wa mama kama watatu manatuamii kwa nyumba juu ya usungu. Utuamii juu ya usungu, manapeleka mpaka kwa Wakamweru. Tunamkuta kama mwenyewe. Mwenye hospitali anatuambia iko na nia mbaya, kwa hivyo tutoke hapa na tuende, hakuna kitu atatusaidia nayo.
Well, this is the clinic where Susan Karimi claims that she came here for treatment before her case became complicated. However, going through the records at the hospital, she cannot be found anywhere. However, she has a referral note purported to have been issued from the hospital.
At the moment, we are in dilemma. We don't know what's going on since we cannot know about the patient. As per our records, which we have gone through with you guys.
Susan, who is a single parent of 2, does odd jobs in Kasarani village and has a bill that is over 80,000 shillings after being admitted here for 3 weeks following the intervention of a well-wisher.
We have had a lot of cases of patients being mishandled in briefcase clinics in various regions. I think one particular case is what you have maybe seen from our institution. So on saving costs, many patients will prefer maybe going to a herbalist or maybe going to a clinic where their pockets won't be frisked much.
Susan's parents are in Meru and she has no phone and she hasn't been able to communicate with any of them on her whereabouts and her condition. Victor Gale, KTN News, Nakuru County.
A KTN news editor, Aaron Ochieng, has been charged with the theft of a motor vehicle belonging to news anchor Joy Doreen Bira. Ochieng was accused of stealing the 2.8 million shillings Mercedes-Benz from the Standard Group offices on Mombasa Road on the 23rd of December last year. He has denied the charges and was released on a cash bail of 300,000 shillings or a bond of 1 million shillings. 7 people, including Bira and 3 police officers, have been lined up as witnesses. The hearing of the criminal charges against Ochieng will begin on the 13th of February this year. They say age is nothing but a number, and for a group of women in Kawangware, age has not kept them away from achieving their dreams. Learning from an 83-year-old great-grandmother to the youngest learner, who's a 32-year-old mother of 5. They have graduated from the basics of holding a pen and struggling to pronounce vowels, and are now able to write their names and tackle simple sums.
It is shortly after 11 a.m. Another day for learners at the Cornerstone School in Kawangware to learn something new. But this is not your ordinary class, and neither are the learners. They are mothers, grandmothers, and great-grandmothers. 32-year-old Susan Nyambura is the youngest. 83-year-old Hannah Njoki is the oldest. They are in for an English lesson. It starts with the basics, pronunciation of vowels. Ma, ma, This beginner's book, one of the books that they depend on. From vowels, they learn short words and how to write them.
Anne has a cup. A cat has a mat.
For many of them, learning has been a lifelong dream. They have a desire to be able to tackle simple sums, as well as write a few words, including their names.
Nilikuja shule kwa maana tangu mimi nasaliwa bado ingia shule siku ingine. Hii ndio yangu ya mwanzo na mimi nafikiria ndio ya mwisho sababu utajua kuandika hata namba moja.
Hannah Njoki, a great-grandmother, started learning by getting to know what to many would appear simple, how to hold a pencil. It's been 2 months since she started learning, and she is achieving her goals.
Nilikuwa sijui hata jina yangu na saa hii ninaandika jina yangu. Kwa hivyo nilikuja shule nisikie utamu ya kusoma.
Already in her sunset years, to Njoki.
Saa hii hata ninaona kama mimi iko invalid kwa kufurahia.
Her deskmate, 73-year-old Sophia Nungaru, too, is making progress. Writing words or vowels is a struggle for some of the learners, but they are a determined lot, and their instructors are patient.
Sana najisikia raha, najisikia niko huru kwa sababu nilikuwa najikunja, tunaona mimi ni mjinga, sijui kusoma.
Naweza kuulizwa, this is a man, ni mwanaume, he is a fat man, ni mwanaume mnono. Naulizwa, what is this? This is a cat, hii ni paka.
Such sessions run for 4 months. The learners are given a certificate of participation.
You know, these people, most of them are traders, like now in the Great South here. So we tell them, you know, that's English. You'll be able, when somebody comes and they talk about tomatoes, you'll be able to know what are tomatoes, you know, the basic things.
This center is among 5 adult learning centers in Nairobi under a program initiated by the Nairobi County Women Representative.
And so we were all given 7 million per constituency. Very little money, by the way, if you compare to members of parliament, because a member of parliament, for example, for here where we are, has 100 million. I have 7 million. Same time frame, same constituency. you can see the imbalance.
In 2015, 12 candidates from this center sat the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education exams. The highest scored 288 marks. In this class, some want more.
Nikimaliza hapa nitaweza tu kupenda tu kusoma. Tungeomba kama tutaendelea kwa ajili hiyo tujue kuweka signatory.
As the English class goes on outside, a practical class is underway. Today it is all about beadwork.
Ile kamba iko upande wenye uko ndio unaweka beads.
They get a step-by-step guide to making ornaments. Such a class meant to help the learners start small businesses.
Kuna hii yenye inaenda hivi na hii iko side yako. Hii ndio tunaweka mbili na hii tunaweka.
Always keen to attend classes, she tags her child along. For the little boy, it is never too early to learn. Aside from beadwork, there is also a cookery class.
Every politician at a point wants to feel they changed the lives of somebody. And that's what I'm feeling with this program.
For many of the women, attending classes is more than just about checking learning off their bucket list. It is about empowerment, the ability to do what many would dismiss as simple tasks, but which to them make a whole world of a difference. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
And Rita is just chock full of inspirational stories over the past few days. Getting some feedback on that already. Dennis Silla on Twitter is saying, here I am saying school was lame. But that story, defying all odds, is a wonderful story of these women. Keep them coming in. But let's remind you of our big question tonight. We're asking you whether you agree with the Council of Governors when they say that the manual electoral system is a plot to rig the elections. Gidwa Wakoine says, I can't support the Council of Governors because they are politicizing the matter. You're watching us from Bahati, Nairobi. Do you agree with Gidwa Wakoine or not? Please keep your comments coming in at KTN News, at Yvonne Okwara. SMS number is 22155. That is absolutely free. You're watching KTN Prime this Tuesday evening. We want to take a short break, but when we come back, our focus on accountability in the counties continues. 47 days of accountability. Today we take a look at the Auditor General's report on the financial year 2014-2015 of Migori County. Before we get into that story, I just want to point out some of the issues that came up in the Auditor General's report. Let's take a look at my super wall tonight. One of the issues or rather, this is how the Auditor General's report works. They take a look at what's happening in the county assembly and in the county government. I've taken a look at just one example from each to take a look at this before we go into our story tonight. Now, in Migori County, the Assembly, the Auditor General raised certain issues with sitting allowances, calling it overpayment. This is the situation. During this financial year, the chair and vice chair each claimed these special rates of 6,500 and 5,200 for meetings. The problem with these figures is that these meetings were attended by these individuals in their capacity as ordinary members and not the chair and the vice chair. If you take a look at the next one, then it tells you this is the amount that each was actually entitled to, which is 3,900 shillings when attending to those committee meetings as ordinary members. If you add up the total of their extra allowances, it comes to a whopping figure of 15,843,140, which you will see on the next slide that we have here. This was the overpayment to the 8 chairmen and vice chair, which ought to be recovered. This is according to the Auditor General's report. Now, this is what it says, that apparently those special rates of 6,500 and 5,200 only apply when one is either chairing or a vice chair of a committee sitting, but not when they're attending these sittings as ordinary members. Therefore, the Auditor General's report states that this 15 million shillings is irregular and ought to have been recovered from these members of County Assembly in the financial year 2014-2015. Now let's take a look at another issue that was raised by the Auditor General, and I hope we can get a really good shot that zooms into this that you can see it, or perhaps we can take it full on the screen. With respect to what is happening in the county government, the Auditor General decried the lack of an audit committee. Now, apparently, the county has not had an audit committee 3 years from the time the county government started operations. This is up to the year 2015. At the time of audit, the county of Migori only had 3 internal audit staff to monitor revenue collections. There were no reports from the Committee on Expenditure and Controls of the county government. Why is this important? Because an audit committee can help identify weaknesses in financial and operational controls in good time, so that any corrective action that needs to be taken should be done so. So these are some of the issues that were raised. But our reporter Fred Muturi spoke to the county officials on these and many other queries raised by the Auditor General concerning expenditure and accountability in the county of Migori. So here's tonight's episode of 47 Days of Accountability.
Migori County is found in South Nyanza region. The county has a population of 1 million people with 8 sub-counties and 40 wards. When Migori Governor Zachary Okothobado was elected, he embarked on fulfilling the promises he had made to his people by improving their lifestyle. But the governor, just like many others in the country, has questions to answer as per the Auditor General's report.
Kuna mabarabara tulikuwa tunatarajia kwamba itatengenezwa, hatuoni imetengenezwa, bado tu shida ni ile kwa sababu hatujapata uzuri wa county government. Hayajatekelezwa vizuri venye sisi wananchi tunataka.
Pande wa kilimo amejaribu kupeana ng'ombe, amepeana mahindi, amepeana ndizi za kupanda mbegu. So kila section amejaribu kushikashika.
The Auditor General's report says Migori County has operated for 3.5 years without an audit committee in place as stipulated by law. He questions the financial and operational controls that need constant checks and balancing but were apparently left hanging.
My take on that is that we have an audit committee in place, and it is a legally constituted audit committee. The members were sourced competitively and gazetted according to our laws. So we have a very, very effective audit committee.
Unajua kwamba hospitali na barabara ndio inaweza tunza wananchi. Lakini ikiwa kwamba hospitali na barabara na mambo ya elimu kabla haijakuwa vizuri, hiyo sisi wananchi hatujafaidika.
Ouko's report also found that Migori County government has only 3 internal auditors whose work is to only monitor revenue collection, and at the same time, the team could not provide a report concerning revenue expenditure and controls of the county government.
The audit committee has a definite functions that they are mandated to undertake. So they cannot be limited to revenue collection only.
Kasoro tu pande wa employment ndiye imekuwa na shida kidogo kwa public service.
And in the construction of a general ward for Ntimaru Hospital, a 7,891,745 shillings contract was awarded to a supplier. But according to the Auditor General's report, the contract was not subjected to a national open tender as stipulated by law.
It is not true that we have paid the 7 million for the ward in Ntimaru and the work has not been done.
The County Assembly could not escape the queries raised by the Auditor General, and in Ouko's report, there was an incident where 80,312,750 shillings was withdrawn from the bank throughout the year in question.
Yeah, it is part of what made us send, actually the speaker is impeached, and the clerk we suspended. Yes, because of these things.
There was also more overpayment of sitting allowances to 8 chairmen and their deputies that amounted to 15,843,140. And these were termed as special rates claimed during 18 County Assembly Committee sittings for meetings they attended as ordinary members.
And in any case, if you withdraw, there should be an attachment that shows that I withdrew this money to pay for these things, which was not there. So I think that as the Auditor General has indicated, there was something very, very wrong with such withdrawals.
Kwa sababu tuliitoa juu, tukapigia katiba ikuje chini, ili mwananchi wa kawaida afaidike, lakini tunaona hapo chini tulisaidia wale mabwenyenye, hatujasaidika kulingana na venye tulipiga kura.
Sisi tunasema Auditor General azidi kufanya hiyo hesabu ipatikane ya maana. Ukweli ni kwamba pesa za wananchi zinatumika vibaya. Hatujasema kwamba Auditor General amefanya makosa, amefanya vizuri. Asipokuwa yeye tungejua kwamba pesa ngapi zimeibwa na pesa ngapi zimetumika na ngapi ambazo hazijatumika.
Most of the people we interviewed in Migori County believe the report is accurate, and they can't wait to see the people involved prosecuted, and at the same time the recovery of the lost money. Fred Muturi, KTN News in Migori County.
Global fashion retailer Deacons East Africa has issued a profit warning following a slump in sales and delays in completion of key malls in the country. In a statement, Deacons notes that the profit warning is based on the unaudited financial statements of the company for the period ended September 30th, 2016, heavily driven by a low Christmas trading season in 2016. The profit alert comes on the back of the just-ended festive season, where retailers enjoyed booming business, raising questions over the retailers' pricing model. A delay in opening of some of its stores at the Hub in Karen and the Two Rivers Mall has been attributed as being behind the forecasted depressed numbers. Deacons, which operates in Kenya, Rwanda, Mauritius and Uganda, has announced that profits will fall by at least a quarter, meaning that they will not exceed 85.4 million shillings. Tanzania's economy grew 6.2% in the third quarter of 2016, compared with 6.3% in the same period the previous year. According to Tanzania's Finance and Planning Minister Philip Mpango, the growth momentum is expected to hold in 2017. The East African nation's economy has been growing robustly, helped by expansion in the transport, mining, communications and finance sectors. Mpango reaffirmed a forecast of 7.2% growth for the financial year ending June 2017. Kenya, on the other hand, is projected to grow at 6%, with investments in infrastructure expected to spur economic activity. In 2016, Kenya grew at 5.6% against an earlier forecast by the National Treasury of over 6%. Marsabit County is known for different attributes, from beautiful rainforests, breathtaking landscapes, and the home of the largest wind farm in Africa. The county is also in record books for registering some of the strongest and fastest winds on earth. Our reporter Philip Kadenge visited the county on a fact-finding mission on the source and potential of these winds.
That is not the sound of a fast-moving vehicle, but the sound of strong winds found on your way from Marsabit town as you travel to Moyale at a place called Bubisa, some 40 kilometers from Marsabit town.
Kuanzia mwezi ya 6 mpaka mwezi ya 10 ukiwa chini ya 50 kilos uweze elekea sehemu ya north, labda uweke mawe mfuko itakubeba.
Tumepata madhara mingi. Wakati ingine malisho huko kidogo hata inafinikwa na upepo, inafinika manyumba, tunakuanga na madhara mingi sana.
Bubisa in the Gabra community means a place of strong winds, and indeed, with these signs dotted all along the road to Moyale, warning motorists of the power of this natural resource.
Kuna wakati imeharibu shule yote, imepomoa tank, imepeleka 15 kilomita macho, inabomoa trasi ya nyumba ile ambayo imefungwa na na screw zimebeba, tumepata madhara mingi.
This community believes these strong winds originate in one of the many craters found in the area.
Kuna kreta iko juu ya Bubisa, inatoka ndani ya kreta. Hiyo ndo source yake. Ukipita kreta hiyo juu, hakuna utaona upepo. Lakini kwa hiyo kreta huwezi simama juu yake, sababu upepo unatoka mingi kwa nguvu, inatoka ndani ya kreta.
The leaders from this location are now calling investors and scientists to come help them convert these powerful winds into a beneficial resource that will benefit this community.
It's been established that Marsabit is like the capital, the wind capital of Africa. And the place where we are today is a place called Bubisa, the name for strong wind. And already studies have been done, a lot of feasibility studies by various companies overseas have carried out the wind speed and direction, and they're all been found to be consistent and enough to electrify the whole of the country. The potential is beyond expectation.
When Marsabit County already hosting the largest wind farm in Africa, the Lake Turkana wind power project is expected to inject the first 90 megawatts of wind power into the national grid by the second quarter of 2017. When operating at full capacity, the Lake Turkana wind power will add an additional 130 megawatts of renewable generation capacity to the Kenyan grid. This output from the wind farm will be enough to power more than 1 million Kenyan households. Philip Keitany, KTN News.
Sliders hockey team is set to beat the odds in this year's Africa Club Championships as they push for the African crown after a 7-year absence. The ladies, who will be taking part in the championships for a second time, feel they have enough steel to upstage the top teams in the region. Robinson Okenya reports.
2016 was not a season to behold for Sliders in the National Hockey League as they finished a distant 5th on the log after finishing 2nd in the previous season. With the African Club Championship only a few days away in Nairobi, the ladies feel they have what it takes to challenge the big teams from across the region in the tournament.
We'll take each team one at a time, yeah? We'll not underrate any team, and we'll not, we'll give due respect to each and every team. So
we're ready for the tournament. Amidst all odds, we want to take the top spot for this tournament.
This year's edition will be Sliders' 4th appearance at the African stage. They won the cup on their regional debut in 1999 in Zimbabwe and finished 3rd the following year. 2007 was the last time they appeared in the championship, and they're seeking to make amends this year.
We'll go for the top spot. Yeah, we can't go in for any less. We'll just go for the top spot. That's what we've been working for, and we hope to get there.
Clearly, the pressure is expected, and obviously there are people who may think, are we up to it? But the only thing I'll tell them is, we are the team to watch.
They, however, feel that Kenyan champions Orange Telecom pose the greatest challenge to them.
They have been, top-seeded for the past over 20 years, so definitely they're our biggest challenge. And we know them, we played them in the league, and, we know how we fare with them.
We are ready to take on Orange, we are ready to take on GRA, we are ready to take on any team that will come, and we're going to face them with the enthusiasm and the synchrony that is required.
The African Club Championship begin on the 7th of January in Nairobi. Robinson Okenya, KTN Sports.
Kenya football legend Joe Kadenge is ailing. Kadenge, famously known by his fans as Kadenge na Mpira, wants to meet President Uhuru Kenyatta and is praying that the head of state will meet him before he meets his maker. Kadenge has been in and out of hospital and is frail, but says his meeting with the president will raise his spirits.
Mimi nakwambia kuna watu wengine katika serikali ambayo ningependa kuona. Kwanza president wa Kenya ningependa sana kumuona. President kama president wetu sasa, kwa sababu mimi nilikuwa nacheza mpira ya Kenya kabla yeye hajazaliwa. And I'm very proud to have such a president kuwa ndi chama ya Kenya. Na ningependa mimi kumfikia na niseme na yeye. I'm very proud of my president. He was a very young, even before he was born, he became to be a president. I wanted to meet him because I would say that I was actually probably a young brother to his father. Now he is the president, and I'm very happy.
Okay.
Mtu kama president mwingine wetu wa zamani, mzee wa zamani, unamkumbuka wale wazee, ningependa kuwaona. At least mwili wangu unaonekana hainipendi kwa sasa, na ningependa kuwapa kwa heri. Mimi nikienda zangu, ni Mungu akinichukua, wape heshima ya kusema wabaki kwa nchi ya Kenya, waendeshe hii nchi yangu. Lakini sasa sijapata nafasi yote. Ukijaribu kupata mkubwa inakuwa ni vigumu sana kuwapata, kuwaona.
And tonight, in our big question, we had asked you whether you agree with the Council of Governors that the manual electoral system is a plot to rig the elections. Those were their submissions before the Senate Committee on Legal Affairs and Human Rights regarding the Electoral Laws Amendment. And the poll results are in. 65% of you say yes, 29% say no. Stanley Mukanambi, you say the governors saying so have issues with the executive. It's just politics. Justin Dollar, you say let's go electronic only. Armstrong Linus says governors are our watchdogs of the counties. It's not of selfish gain, for even LSK is against it. Those are your views tonight. We thank you for watching. Thanks for your feedback. Our sign language interpreter tonight was Maresha Owiti, and I am Yvonne Okwara Matole. Good night.